There's a quiet ache within us, a deep-seated belief that to truly live, to be truly good, we must extend our hand without question. From our first breath, we're taught that the path of virtue is paved with unconditional giving, with an unwavering yes to every plea for help. To pause, to weigh, to establish a boundary, that, surely, is the mark of selfishness, a betrayal of kindness itself. But what if this deeply ingrained narrative, this societal expectation, holds a hidden, uncomfortable truth? What if our relentless compulsion to fix, to rescue, to shoulder the burdens of others is not always an act of love, but rather a subtle form of spiritual interference? A disruption of the very crucible of life, where lessons are forged in the fires of experience. Consider this. When we perpetually shield another soul from the natural consequences of their own choices, what are we truly accomplishing? Are we liberating them, or are we, with every well-intentioned intervention, tightening the invisible chains that bind them to their patterns? We prevent their ascent, obstructing the invaluable wisdom that blossoms only from the fertile ground of personal struggle. This isn't a call for cold detachment, it's an invitation to discernment. The question isn't whether we care, but how we care, and perhaps more profoundly, into whom we choose to pour the finite, precious wellspring of our own energy. For there exist individuals who, with an almost imperceptible grace, will draw from you until you are utterly hollowed out. They will take and take and take, and no matter how lavish your generosity, it will never be enough. The true tragedy is not merely their taking, but that your continuous giving actively obstructs their necessary, painful, and ultimately transformative journey toward growth. Let me share with you 7 types of people, illuminated by the profound insights of Alan Watts, that you must learn to recognize. Not for the purpose of judgment or condemnation, but as a sacred act of self-preservation, allowing both you and them the space to evolve. 1. The chronically lazy. There is a stark, undeniable difference between a soul genuinely wrestling with adversity and one who has simply, perhaps unconsciously, surrendered to inertia. The former, when offered a hand, seizes it as a stepping stone. The latter, they fashioned it into a perpetual hammock. They have, at some deep level, decided that life is too arduous and that the world owes them a permanent reprieve. The moment you step into their orbit offering assistance, you become that convenient someone else. You become the pillar of their dependency, not because they are inherently incapable, but because they have shrewdly discovered that someone will always bear their burden. Observe nature's unforgiving wisdom. A mother bird does not endlessly feed a chick that refuses to open its beak. A vigorous tree does not continue to pour its life force into a branch that yields no fruit. If something fails to produce, to contribute, it is eventually shed, not out of malice, but out of an ancient ecological wisdom. When you continually rescue those who refuse to rescue themselves, you deny them the profound satisfaction of accomplishment, the indomitable strength forged in overcoming hardship. You strip them of the very discovery they need most, the revelation of their own innate power. The lazy soul needs to feel the bite of hunger, the sting of discomfort. They need to experience the unvarnished consequences of their choices. For only when the pain of staying the same eclipses the fear of change will they finally stir. 2. The perpetually ungrateful. Have you ever encountered a spirit so devoid of recognition that they treat an extraordinary gift as if it were nothing more than their due? You offer your precious time, your hard-earned resources, your very heart, and they absorb it without a flicker of acknowledgement whatsoever. This is not an oversight of manners, it is a profound misalignment of character. Gratitude is more than mere politeness. It is the soul's acknowledgement that every blessing, every kindness is not an entitlement, but a freely bestowed grace. The ungrateful, conversely, live in a universe where the world owes them. Your generous help is, to them, their inherent right. And here lies the bitter paradox. The more you pour into them, the deeper their sense of entitlement entrenches itself. You are not sowing seeds of future growth, you are casting them into a bottomless pit, and no matter how much you throw, that chasm will remain eternally empty. 3. The arrogant and self-righteous. These individuals do not seek your genuine assistance, they crave your unwavering validation. They yearn not for your insightful wisdom, but for you to simply echo and affirm their already firmly held convictions. Dare you to offer a perspective that even subtly challenges their carefully constructed worldview, and they will recoil, rejecting you entirely. The arrogant soul does not suffer from a deficit of knowledge, but from an intoxicating excess of pride. They believe they already possess all the answers, that their path is the singular truth. Pride, in its curious dance, often masquerades as unshakable confidence, but it is, in its deepest essence, a profound fear. The arrogant are terrified of being wrong, for their entire identity is meticulously woven from the threads of infallibility. To admit ignorance, to acknowledge a need for help, would cause their carefully constructed edifice of self to crumble. And so they double down, they defend, they argue, they reject. You cannot truly help such a person, not because they are beyond redemption, but because they simply do not believe they require it. Until that fundamental realization dawns within them, anything you offer will dissipate like mist on a desert wind. They must stumble, they must fall, they must experience the bruising consequences of their own hubris. They must hit the ground with enough force to finally gaze upward and understand that their grasp of truth is in fact woefully incomplete. Only then, humbled and perhaps even broken, will they be receptive to genuine aid. 4. The habitually wicked. Here we must tread with utmost care, for in our modern lexicon, words like wicked or evil often make us flinch. We prefer gentler terms, troubled, misunderstood. But there are souls in this world who are not merely confused, they are acutely aware of their actions and proceed regardless. The wicked person is not defined by a single mistake, for we all err. Rather, they are defined by a life chosen on the path of malevolence. They lie, they cheat, they manipulate, they inflict harm upon others without a shred of remorse. Confront them, and they do not repent. They rationalize, they justify. When you offer succor to a wicked person, you become, however inadvertently, an accomplice. You provide fertile ground for their destructive behaviors to flourish. You furnish them with the very resources they will use not to transform, but to delve deeper into their chosen darkness. Ancient wisdom traditions across every culture universally caution against empowering those who sow evil. This is not a lack of compassion, but a clear-eyed recognition that some have deliberately chosen a trajectory toward ruin. Attempt to divert them, and they may only pull you down into their abyss alongside them. The wicked do not seek salvation, they seek amplification. They desire a patron for their schemes, a shield for their falsehoods, a cleaner for their messes. Step into that role and you are not helping, you are forging a partnership with shadow.
5. The incurably foolish. A fool is not defined by a lack of intellect, but by an unyielding refusal to learn. They orbit the same mistakes again and again. They deafen themselves to sound advice, dismiss hard-won wisdom, and repeatedly touch the burning stove, only to express bewilderment at their scorched hand. The chasm between the wise and the foolish is deceptively simple. One learns from experience, the other does not. And here lies the particular anguish of dealing with the fool. They will invariably present themselves in moments of profound distress. In crisis, desperate, Their suffering will tug at your very soul, igniting an urgent desire to help, to rescue. But look closely at their personal history, and a stark pattern emerges. This is not their inaugural crisis. This is not their first desperate plea. They have inhabited this precise predicament countless times before, and each time someone intervened, someone rescued them, only for them to promptly return to the very behaviors that initiated the trouble. The fool is akin to a drowning person who, despite your life preserver, thrashes wildly, refusing to grasp salvation. Should you leap in to save them, they will likely pull you under with their panic. You cannot save a fool. Only life itself, through its stark, unyielding consequences, possesses the power to penetrate their stubborn resistance. And if you persistently intervene, you prevent those vital consequences from executing their transformative work. 6. The Master Manipulator. Of all the individuals on this potent list, the manipulator is arguably the most perilous, precisely because their nature is so exquisitely disguised. They do not approach with overt demands. They arrive bearing carefully crafted narratives. They do not directly plunder your resources. Instead, they orchestrate circumstances that compel you to want to give. The manipulator possesses an uncanny understanding of human psychology. They know that good-hearted people yearn to help, that kind souls recoil from the discomfort of saying no. And this profound insight they wield like a precise weapon. They will speak the exact words you long to hear. They will deftly play upon your deepest emotions. They will make you feel uniquely special, indispensable, utterly vital. And before you comprehend the subtle shift, you find yourself performing acts for them you would never contemplate for anyone else. The manipulator is a master shapeshifter. To one, they are the tragic victim. To another, the valiant hero. Their narratives twist and turn depending on their audience. Compare notes with others who have fallen into their orbit, and you will find their stories wildly, disturbingly inconsistent. When you offer aid to a manipulator, you are not assisting a soul in genuine need. You are feeding a self-serving system. You are supplying the very fuel for their intricate games. And the moment you cease to give, the instant you pierce through their elaborate charade, they will turn on you with venom. They will cast you as the villain, broadcast tales of your perceived betrayal, and seamlessly transition to their next unwitting target. The unrepentant rebel. Finally, we encounter the individual who knows better, yet steadfastly refuses to do better. They have been taught, they have been warned, they have been gently and perhaps not so gently corrected, but they simply do not care. They have, with conscious intent, chosen to persist on a destructive path, and nothing you say or nothing you do will sway their unyielding resolve. The unrepentant person is not ignorant. They are defiantly disobedient. They possess a clear understanding of what is right, yet they demonstrably prefer what is wrong. And when you attempt to help them, they will nod, they will smile, they will feign agreement with every word you utter. But the instant your back is turned, they revert with practiced ease to their old entrenched ways. This type of soul is often the hardest to release, for you, with your hopeful gaze, can see their luminous potential. You can glimpse the magnificent being they could become if only they would choose transformation. And so you cling to hope. You invest in belief, convinced that this time will be different. But it never is. The unrepentant soul must ignite their own desire for change from within. Until that inner spark ignites, all the well-intentioned help in the universe will prove utterly meaningless. You cannot desire their healing more than they desire it themselves. You cannot wage the battle for their freedom with more ferocity than they are willing to fight for it. And if you try, you will only exhaust your own spirit, while they remain stubbornly, precisely the same. So, what then is our recourse in the face of such profound truths? Do we harden our hearts? Do we withdraw our compassion entirely? Absolutely not. We cultivate a sharper, more nuanced discernment. We learn to perceive the subtle yet crucial distinction between a soul authentically struggling and one who is willfully stuck. We learn to differentiate between the hand up that elevates and the free ride that cripples. We learn to see with clarity, unclouded by judgment, yet also untainted by illusion. True compassion is not, cannot be, enabling. True compassion, in its most profound manifestation, sometimes demands that we step back, that we allow others the dignity and the necessity of confronting the full consequences of their own choices. For it is often within the crucible of difficulty, through the stark lessons of hardship, through the transformative experience of hitting rock bottom, that souls finally awaken to their own power. When you offer your light to the right soil, you witness abundant fruit. You pour your energy into receptive ground and you see vibrant growth. But when you lavish your essence upon those who are not ready, who are unwilling to change, who will only consume and deplete you, all that remains is a profound sense of waste. Your energy is a sacred trust, your time a finite, precious commodity, your resources limited. You must become a wise steward of where you invest them. Not everyone, despite their pleas or their proximity, deserves your help. And to acknowledge this, to act upon it, is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of profound wisdom. So reflect today. Who am I tirelessly helping who desperately needs to be released? Who am I perpetually rescuing who truly needs to experience their own fall? Who am I enabling who must finally confront the unvarnished consequences of their own actions? And when the answer emerges, summon the quiet courage to step back, not with anger, nor with resentment, but with the deep, unwavering understanding that sometimes the most profoundly loving thing you can do is to allow another soul the space and the challenge to forge their own path. For in the final analysis, you cannot save anyone. You can only illuminate the way. And whether they choose to walk that path or not remains eternally their own sovereign choice.